How well do you deal with the practical side of life? Is it easy for you to work steadily, show up for your duties, and stay grounded? In astrology, being realistic and mature is represented by Saturn. And Saturn this week is moving into a whole new area of your life. Over the next 2 years, you will need to overcome obstacles, work hard, grow up, be dutiful, and restructure the Aries part of your chart. But it's not all serious and a little bit boring. You will also have the chance to build something new, and this could be something very exciting, pioneering, even heroic, and perhaps spiritual and artistic, because Neptune will be co-present with Saturn over the next 2 years. In this video, we are going to talk about Saturn's journey through Aries for the next 2 years. We'll have a sign-by-sign breakdown and look at what this is going to mean in your life. So hello everybody, my name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar. I make calendars like this one for Australia. This is the Australian one. And for New Zealand, I am based in New Zealand, but this astrology is for the whole world. And in this video, I'm going to talk about Saturn and its time in Aries over the next 2 years. Firstly, I need to apologize for the sound. I know the sound is not as good as usual, and that's because my laptop mic has died and I need to use another mic and it's not working quite as well. And this was, of course, Uranus turning direct and then Mercury square to Uranus last week. That has caused me some technical challenges, as these two together in a square can do and Uranus can do as it turns around. Anyway, so in this video, I'm going to take a deeper look at Saturn, what it represents in astrology, what Aries is about, a little bit of a retrospective on Saturn moving through Pisces over the last 3 years, and then we're going to do a sign-by-sign breakdown, and so that you can see what part of life your Saturn is going to affect you in. So let's get into it. Just to say, I use Western tropical astrology, and this is using whole sign houses. So here we go. So in this video, we're going to look at Saturn in astrology, the dates involved with these transits, retrospective on Saturn in Pisces, looking ahead to Saturn in Aries and what that's going to be about. We'll look briefly at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's coming up at the end of February, and Saturn and the mini-grand trine, because Saturn is playing an important part there. Right, okay, and just looking at the calendar, so this is actually, the Australian edition of the Sun and Moon calendar for this month, and this is the month, the lunar month of Capricorn, that it happens, and this is what I wrote about it in the calendar. Saturn moving into Aries on the 13th or the 14th of February, depending on where you are in the world. The planet of discipline, duty, and boundaries moves into confident Aries, the sign of initiative, bold leadership, and warrior-like endeavors. And that's right until April of 2028. Okay, so let's look first at what the planet Saturn represents in astrology. Saturn is the serious planet known as the master, the disciplinarian, the taskmaster, and it's about the rules and the boundaries and restrictions in life. In ancient astrology, which was all based on the planets and their visibility, Saturn was the furthest planet that could be seen with the naked eye, though apparently Uranus can be seen on occasion. But Saturn is the main planet that can be seen, that's the furthest away. It's very far, it's very, very cold. And it's the last one before you get to those really slow moving outer planets like Neptune and Uranus and Pluto. Okay, so this is part of what brought about Saturn's our understanding of Saturn representing boundaries and restrictions. I've heard others astrologers talking about the rings around Saturn representing the boundaries and restrictions, the walls or the limits within which we live. Okay, and with that, Saturn rules authority figures, the boss, the parents, anything to do with rules, authorities, the police, anything to do with control, anything that's saying it's time to turn off the music at 10 p.m. It's time to go to bed and not party too long, and it's time to clean up. So Saturn is about being realistic, pragmatic, steady, and working hard, very practical. All right. And it's also about hard work and the hard lessons of life. And wherever you have Saturn in your chart, in your birth chart, this will be an area where you do need to work hard, where you do receive hard lessons. And you need to develop your own ways of parenting yourself, developing your own inner authority so that you take charge of your life in a way that is disciplined and realistic according to the context that you live in. And that also applies to the where transiting Saturn is in your chart. And for the last 3 years, transiting Saturn has mostly been in the sign of Pisces. So whatever house Pisces rules in your chart, that is the area of life that has been affected with restrictions, harder requirements, boundaries, working hard, having to be very practical, realistic, and showing up like an adult. So we'll talk about that soon. Okay, Saturn also represents conservative values, traditional values, keeping going with the old customs and the old ways of doing things. It doesn't like the newfangled ideas at all. Saturn is about being an adult, and some of the wisdom of Saturn is about, actually, how do we really live in a realistic way according to the restrictions and boundaries that we're guided by and given in life, because we have this life on earth. We are restricted. It's the nature of reality of life on earth. We cannot go too long without eating. We cannot go too long without sleeping. We have to be practical about our needs. We need shelter. We need food. We need money to live. Saturn expects us to show up to those realities. Okay? The upside of Saturn, or let's say that's not a negative thing to have to look after ourselves, but it can be seen as rather serious, rather boring, rather tedious, and not much fun. But on the upside, we can recognize Saturn for its wisdom and common sense, good sense, and maturity. And over time, Saturn really likes us to work hard towards something in a steady, regular, and slow way so that we bit by bit are building for the future. And this is a wonderful thing about Saturn. It will reward hard work, it will reward steady progress and working at things over a long time, bit by bit. Okay. All right, so Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and Capricorn is very, very like Saturn, wherever you've got Capricorn in your chart, you are hardworking, steady, you recognize that status and reputation are important. It's all very well for us to say it doesn't matter what people think. Saturn expects us to be aware of the fact that our status and reputation in the world and the money that we have in the world, the material mastery that we have of life, these are important in our modern world, in our earthly existence, okay? And Capricorn is all about that. So people with strong Capricorn energy, you are ruled by Saturn, and you're probably quite comfortable with all this practical realism that I'm talking about. And Saturn was also the ancient ruler of Aquarius. And this can be a little bit surprising in a way, because Aquarius loves the new ideas, the progressive ideas. It loves to jump ahead with a great big innovative leap, and Saturn likes to work at things slowly. But Aquarius also, so these aspects of Aquarius, that innovative, progressive, thinking about the new, out of the box ideas, that's the Uranus, the modern ruler aspect of Aquarius. Saturn is about the side of Aquarius that is very grounded in reality, practical, and very rational, clear thinking, logical, not getting sentimental, not getting carried away with, oh, but it's so cute, or it's so pretty, or I love him so much. No, Aquarius is very rational and has a lot of common sense and realism about it. And that's the Saturn side of Aquarius. Okay. All right, so some key dates with the transits that I'm talking about. Saturn went into Pisces in March of 2023, and then it moved into Aries in May last year, 2025. All right, and we had this time, so that was summer in the northern hemisphere and that was winter in the southern hemisphere, and so we had this taste of Saturn in Aries. It got very close to Neptune during that time, but it didn't become exactly conjunct with Neptune. Then Saturn retrograded back into Pisces in September, and then Saturn turns direct in November last year, just a few months ago, and then it's been heading towards Aries since then. It's final moments in Pisces, perhaps bringing you some final lessons in the sign of Pisces, whatever that rules in your chart, perhaps bringing you some rewards that have come out of slow, steady, committed, disciplined hard work. All right. And then Saturn moves into Aries this week on the 14th or the 15th of February, depending on where you are in the world. It's not going to go back into Pisces for another 27 years, something like that. Saturn takes 29 years, 29 and a half years to move right around the zodiac. And so it's like a whole generation that it takes for Saturn to move around. And then we are coming up for this big, important conjunction of Saturn conjuncting Neptune on the 20th or 21st of February, and that is at 0 degrees of Aries. That is a very exciting time. All right. Saturn and Pisces, let's look back at that. Saturn was co-present with Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. Neptune and Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces was bringing out more of that Piscean energy, the dreaminess, the mysticalness, the romance, the glamour, fake news, the opportunity to be operating under illusion, to be deluded, to be carried away with drug use, to be carried away with addictions, to care about people who are dispossessed, to care about the underdog, to think about spirituality, to think about water a lot. So Pisces has been enhanced and powered up by Neptune over the last 14 years, but from March of 2023, Saturn also went into Pisces, and so we had the realization that we can be compassionate and charitable, but there has to be a limit. We can be dreamy, we can be spiritual, but there has to be a limit. There has to be boundaries. We have to be realistic with our spirituality. We have to, people have got compassion fatigue from trying to help everybody. All right, and Saturn has made us realize it. We can't go too far with drug use, and I think drug use has become quite gentrified over the last 10 years or so. And then Saturn has made us realize, okay, we have to put some boundaries on that. We can't go crazy with it, and we need to restrict it to some degree. It doesn't mean we can't do anything. It just means we have to be sensible, and have some limits, all right? So we've become more aware also of mental health issues. It might be that in the last couple of weeks of Saturn being in Pisces, there could be some rewards for any of the hard work that you've done in that sign, in that area of life that sign rules in your chart. And there could be some hard lessons to come out of it as well. But you would have been getting some hard lessons all the time with Pisces in that area of your life. And now, Saturn is moving into Aries, and it will be there until April of 2028. Aries is about our pioneering spirit, where we take initiative in life, where we just go for it. We don't think too much. We operate on instinct. We try out new things. We are confident. We are leaders in the Aries part of our chart. We like to take the initiative. We're entrepreneurial. And we're willing to take risks. We're willing to speak and act directly and boldly. And Saturn, over the next 2 years, is going to bring some restrictions to that. Okay, we won't be able to just go completely crazy with entrepreneurial projects or pioneering initiatives. We won't be able to get too carried away. We won't be able to be too unrealistic. Saturn is going to help us to be grounded and practical and bring some hard lessons along with that. All right, so what have I written there? With Saturn and Aries together, we're looking at initiatives, that's the Aries part, that are sensible. We're looking at driving forward, that's the Aries side of things, but working hard as we drive forward. Building for the future. Aries loves to go ahead with something new into the future, and Saturn will help us think about building towards that realistically. All right. And I'm going to add that we've got Neptune co-present. So Neptune's helping us also think, have I written anything about this? Not at the moment. Okay. Neptune's going to be making us want to take initiatives with spiritual things, with charitable campaigns, with artistic endeavors. So with anything to do with water or gas or anything where we are championing or fighting for the underdog or for dispossessed people or for spiritual rights and freedom. Okay, so Saturn will bring some restrictions, but we need to bring all of these three together. So that's going to be happening particularly with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's coming up. So the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is coming up late in February, and it's the beginning of a whole new cycle, a whole new roughly 30-year cycle as Saturn moves much faster than Neptune. Neptune takes 165 years to go around the zodiac wheel. Saturn takes 29, 30 years. So Saturn's going to go past Neptune and then go around the zodiac and come back and meet Neptune in, I think, either Taurus or Gemini in 30 years, all right? But what is particularly exciting about this conjunction that has not happened probably in thousands of years is that they are meeting at the 0 Aries degree. This is the very beginning of the zodiac wheel because Aries is the first sign in astrology. That is significant. It is symbolic of even grander, more epic new beginnings and initiatives and developments than is normally the case, even though a 30-year cycle is a big one as well. All right, so we will be looking at bringing together Saturn and Neptune and Aries. So I will talk about more about this as we get closer to that conjunction, but here's a rough discussion. All right, we're trying to bring together these energies. We're bringing together Saturn and its good sense, its hard work, ability to follow the rules and the authorities and to be practical. Neptune, with its sense of charity, compassion, art, its love of stories and narratives, spirituality and water. And Aries, with its new initiatives, pioneering projects, it's confidence, it's fighting spirit, it's boldness. We're bringing together all of these. So thinking about anything in your life that you want to start, that's a really big new start. And it'll be in the Aries part of your chart that I'll go into in the All Signs breakdown. And what could develop and how can you bring all of these together? All right. Amazing spirituality, good sense, and powerful, energetic new initiatives. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. The downside could be that it makes people more glamorize war and want to go off and fight unnecessarily, and we might feel frustrated with the restrictions of Saturn, and we might be operating under false information because Neptune can bring about delusions and illusions. But it is wonderful that the potential of this new beginning is amazing. Right. All right. Oh, I wrote some things there. So I was just brainstorming here. I was trying to bring together those three energies. So Saturn and Neptune and Aries, sensible campaigns for charity and compassion, practical, creative, or artistic projects, new structures using water or gas for energy, maybe something in the sea, like using the waves or something. Spiritual enlightenment that is grounded in reality, something like Stoicism, for example. Elders or elderly people or the older generation developing new creative projects and leading the way. Fighting for the underdog against the authorities. Okay, so the fighting is the Aries side, the underdog is the Neptune side, and against the authorities. That's the Saturn side. All right. Okay. So let's also look at Saturn and the mini-trine, because Neptune, this is the big, big, big energy that's affecting us between 2025 and 2027. Neptune is at the apex of the triangle, and Uranus is in one other corner, and Pluto is in the other corner. This is a very flowing and energizing connection between these very slow moving outer planets. It's thousands of years since such a thing has formed. And at the apex of that triangle is the Saturn Neptune conjunction. All right. So we are expecting developments, new initiatives, new grand epic beginnings involving a lot of technology and innovation, and that is because of the Uranus and Pluto and Aquarius influences. All right. But we're also expecting there to be spirituality, expecting there to be compassion and artistry with Neptune. Saturn will move on. It won't be part of it after a couple of months or so. This is the main point. Last year and this year, the beginning of this year, is the main point with Saturn part of the mix. And it will be helping us to build for the future in sensible, realistic ways. Hello and welcome back. This is a brand new day. I didn't manage to record the entire video on the same day, but I wore the same top so that you know it's the same video. All right, we're looking at Saturn and Aries sign by sign. So we're going to look at for each area, for each sign, what is the whole sign house that Saturn is in, that Aries falls in, and that will be about the part of your life that Saturn going through Aries with its restrictions, its boundaries, and its guidance to make us become more grown up and masterful, the area of life that will be affecting. So the focus for each sign, or thinking about each sign, and what we're going to be talking about, is about a part of your life where you'll be building for the future, where you'll be taking initiative, and you always do this in this part of life because whatever sign you are, the Aries part of the chart is an area where you take initiative and you take bold action and you like to be entrepreneurial. And sometimes that might be challenged because you might have a placement there, like if you have Saturn in your natal chart in Aries, or Chiron in your natal chart in Aries, or a square or an opposition. So you might get some challenges, but overall, wherever you have Aries in your chart, you are more entrepreneurial, pioneering, bold, adventurous, willing to take risks. Okay. But Saturn is going to bring limitations to that kind of energy. However, the idea is that you will still be wanting to take bold initiatives and pioneering moves, especially with Neptune there as well. And Saturn is going to help you to build steadily towards your goals in realistic ways. All right. So being realistic and practical, awareness of your boundaries of time, your limitations. How much time in the day or the week do you have to work on your goals or your initiatives? How much time do you have in your life over the long term? Are you getting to an age where there's some things that you can't do as well as you used to do before? Or there's limitations. For example, you might want to do some university study, or you might want to go overseas, but there's some age limitation on getting an overseas working visa or something like that. Okay. In the end, Saturn will bring rewards for hard work and help us achieve mastery, but the road towards that is long and can be arduous. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about sign by sign, starting from Aries. If you are Aries, sun, moon, or rising, Saturn is moving back into your first house. So you had a taste of this last year between May and September, and some of the themes and feelings that came up then might come up again. You also would have experienced this 30 years or so when Saturn last went through Aries. Okay, your first house is all about you, Aries. It's about how you are in the world, your character in the world, your identity, and the parts that you play in the world. So um, it will affect all parts of life, and the energy of Saturn will be coming from you. You'll be more serious, more practical, more realistic, having to face up to hard truths about the limitations in life, that you can't do everything. I've had Saturn going through my first house, Pisces, over the last 2 or 3 years, and it has been very hard. I feel like I've got older. I decided to let my hair go grey, and that was just a tiny aspect of it. Mostly, I've just had to be so much more like an adult, all right, and serious, and just face up to hard truths about what I can do, what I can't do, and make decisions based on the actual practical facts. As a Pisces person, I like to flow and be unstructured, but Saturn has required that I be very structured. For you, Aries, you like to be impulsive and spontaneous and just do things and say things straight away, directly, and get things going, take action. Saturn is going to put some limitations on that and require that you're thinking more carefully and realistically about the things that you do and the things that you say. All right. You might get involved in more challenging physical pastimes. I was ended up doing more tramping or hiking, mountain climbing, and it was really hard. It was my partner was into it. I was following him, much harder than I thought, and I realized I need to get fitter. Like there were limitations with my physicality, and you might find that too, Aries, that you find out about the limitations of your physical abilities, and one point about that might mean that you can't do as much as you thought you could, and you may have to pull back on your goals there. Or it might mean that you have to train harder and get fitter in some kind of way. So let's put it what else I've written. Okay, so because the first house affects everything, it's where you're looking out at all of your life. There could be something about new relationships, especially where there's more commitment, more requirements with your career and your home, and you might be having big visions, big, exciting, pioneering, epic visions for all aspects of your life, especially those big things, relationships, career, home. But Saturn will require you to work hard, to be very realistic, to live and work and do whatever you're doing within realistic context, the context that you live in, and to be practical and pragmatic about that and just accept, yes, there are rules and regulations and there are limits and I have to go with them. You're going to develop more maturity, more realism and wisdom, and this will come through challenges and working through blockages and restrictions. And you might become older in appearance and feel older, and you might become more conservative, even more traditional, and some would say boring. I feel like I'm more boring after this transit. But also, sometimes I can feel like I'm becoming a little more like conservative in my views and approaches to things. Okay, that might change when Saturn goes out. That'll be interesting. And physical exertion might be required of you. It's the ruler of your 10th house of career and your 11th house of the gains from your career or the rewards from your career. And your ruler is currently in that 11th house. And that might mean that your career and your friendship groups are even more likely to come into play here. All right. Okay. I think I've said everything that I was going to say. So all the best for that, Aries. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. And it's not too late to order a 2026 Aotearoa New Zealand or Australia Sun and Moon calendar. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Taurus Rising, Saturn is moving into Aries on the 13th or 14th of February, and it will be there until April 2028. This is your 12th house. This is your house of where you retreat from the world, where you are escaping from your normal life and maybe doing things and thinking about things and being creative or even spiritual in ways that the rest of the people in your life, the rest of your world, don't really see. It's also things that you don't even see because the 12th house is like as far away from you as you can get. Okay, so it might mean that while you have Saturn going through that 12th house, that you might be alone more. And you would have had a taste of this between May and September last year because it went into Aries briefly. You're going to be working more. And by working, I mean Saturn is about work. And so you might get more restricted and have to work harder at anything to do with spiritual connection, um, your creativity, especially where that's a creativity that you feel like is coming from the universe, from your unconscious, from the flow of life and the connection of all things, that kind of flowing creativity. But Saturn is not flowing, so you may need to get more rigid even about the ways that you connect with your unconscious. Maybe you get a really structured journal time every day, for example. Okay. There might be endings in your life that come up over the next 2 years because something has come that its time is up, its time is finished. When I had Saturn going through Aries, I was definitely far more outside of the world, like separate from the world. I was at home a lot. I just had this time where I didn't really do a lot. I didn't see my friends as much. I just dropped. Just before that, I dropped some of my major hobbies and I was working in places. I had work, but I was out of the way. That was like kind of workplaces. I was doing contracting and I was here and there in places where they weren't very well known places. There wasn't a lot of status. Sometimes I was doing night shifts, so that was even quieter. So these are the kinds of things that can come up with Saturn in your 12th house, all right? So what have I said? Oh, Saturn is the ruler of your ninth house. Capricorn is your ninth house and your 10th house. So there could be some career stuff that comes up, and maybe that could be connected with overseas connections or foreign connections, like far distant places, again, being out of the way. And with the ninth house, that might bring in the spirituality side. Okay. Um, So it's time out. It's time for withdrawal. There might be some overseas travel because the 12th house can be about distant places and also the ninth house, but that could involve some restrictions, like maybe it's harder to organize, maybe you're going overseas to work on something. There'll be some difficulties to overcome, all right? Um, and yeah, so the kind of spirituality that you might be developing out of this time is more pragmatic spirituality, like stoicism, fetch wood, fetch water, chop wood, like being practical and seeing the divinity and the practical things in life. All right. So it's if you do try and start new things, they might not come to anything. I tried with a couple of things to get them going. I started a new dance group because I used to do a lot of dancing. I started a new dance group and it just didn't take off. We did a couple of terms that I didn't get big numbers and just the energy wasn't there. And that was an ending. Like that was the last time I've taught dance. I haven't done it since then. And there was another few things that came to an end during that time or that I tried to get going and it didn't happen. However, if an opportunity comes from the outside and it seems really awesome and just feels right, go for it. Definitely go for it because um, you still can have things going on. It's just overall, this is going to be a time of withdrawal. You also might be looking at your addictions and your habits that are not so healthy and being practical and realistic about those. So chocolate or wine in the evening, whatever it is, there might be some problems that arise from this and you need to face up to being more structured and disciplined about it. So it's a time for developing your maturity and your realism through solitude. It's a time to be a hermit, actually, to some degree, and from that you can be developing your spirituality and preparing for when Saturn comes into your sign in 2028, Taurus, and then you are going to be restructuring your whole life. So all the best for that. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. And it's not too late to order and buy a Sun and Moon calendar for 2026. This is the Australian edition, and there's an Aotearoa edition, New Zealand edition as well. So bye for now, Taurus. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Saturn is moving into Aries on the 13th and 14th of February. It will be there until April of 2028. This is your 11th house. The 11th house is about the gains or the rewards that you get from your career, your friendship groups, groups of people or organizations that you belong to where you have something in common, and also about your long-term goals, what you're aiming for in the future. All right. You had a taste of this last year when Saturn was in Aries between May and September, but now it's a real thing. It's going to be there until April of 2028. All right. It's going to be making you more realistic, pragmatic, and serious in anything to do with your friendship groups and what you do with your friends, more serious about your long-term goals and building towards them, and more serious about your status and any other rewards, like with the financial rewards that you get from your career. So let's have a look at what I've written here. So your long-term goals and your aspirations to help people, you need to think big because Neptune is there in Aries and it's meeting with Saturn. That's going to help you aim for some big visionary goals and dreams. But the Saturn side of things over the next 2 years will make you have to work hard and overcome obstacles and be pragmatic and serious. You might find that there are limits to your career rewards and to your feelings of success in your career. Be patient and work through whatever needs to be worked through and be pragmatic and realistic. And you may find that you have some friendship groups or friends in your wider circle that now feel a little bit too lightweight and it's too much just the group banter thing, and you want more serious. You don't want the good time friends only. You want more serious friendships, and maybe you do more practical things with your friends, like giving service by working hard, doing some kind of volunteer work, or just anything where you're working together with your friends, or doing some hard physical stuff like climbing mountains, or running for a long way with endurance, like marathon running or something like that. All right. Saturn rules your eighth house and your ninth. So, with Saturn being the ruler of your eighth house, there might be some deeper psychological things that need to come up. And Gemini, you are wonderful at the light side of life, and that would apply with your friendship groups. You like to chat and joke, be the comedian, flirt, and get the group chat and, as I said, the banter going. But Saturn's going to be making you more serious, and it may bring up some underlying psychological issues because it is the ruler of your eighth house of psychology and transformation. All right. And you also might have a variety of friendship groups. You might have this crowd of friends and this crowd of friends, because Gemini, you love to buzz around everything and do this, do that, be exploring, be diverse, like diversity in terms of this friendship group and then another completely different group. And it, there could be some limits to that come up. Maybe you just find maybe it's just too much, and Saturn's got this restrictive energy, and you just want to tone it down and cut out a few of the friendship groups. Yeah, when I had Saturn going through my 11th house a few years ago, I still kept with my friendship groups. One particular friendship group, I was playing ultimate frisbee, and for that, one of the years of that, I ended up being like the coordinator of the league, and I was sending out weekly emails and organizing things. So that was like stepping up to the plate. Instead of just being the fun time, going to show up at the last minute and just leave straight afterwards. No, I took on that job to be more serious and get things organized and structure things. That was Saturn with my friendship groups. And I also dropped out of other friendship groups. I was doing a lot of dancing and had a lot of dance friends, and I just sort of withdrew from them. I was just pulling out of that. And you might find that there are endings, maybe some long-term goals that you let go of, some rewards from your career that you let go of, or some friendship groups that you let go of. Okay. But overall, you're looking at restructuring and building for the future, for a better future, because Saturn really does give us rewards when we are prepared to overcome the obstacles and work hard with it. Okay, so all the best for that, Gemini, and there is still time and plenty of the year left to order a Aotearoa, that's New Zealand Sun and Moon calendar for 2026, or the Australia version for 2026 if you are from either of those countries. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and all the best for Saturn and Aries, Gemini. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, Saturn is moving into Aries on the 13th or 14th of February, and it will be there until April 2028. That is your 10th house of your career, Cancer, your status and reputation, what you do in the world, even where you're going to leave a legacy in the world, okay, through the work that you do and the work that you're known for. All right, you had a taste of this last year from May to September when Saturn went into Aries a little bit, but then it went back again. And there are likely to be some big visionary dreams that go along with this, with Neptune being in Aries as well, and especially with coming out of the conjunction at the end of February. But we're looking now at the Saturn influence over the next 2 years, and that's going to mean that you are going to have to work harder in your career, be more serious. There's going to be obstacles and blockages to overcome. You might be given a leadership role, and you might do well in that, or you might find it really hard, but then you do well in the end. And yeah, just more serious about your career and what you're working with your career, restructuring it. So let's have a look at my notes. So you might have career projects with leadership and more status and reputation attached. You will be tested, and this testing will be public. Okay. Oh my gosh, I had this when Saturn went through my 10th house. I was given a leadership position in my career, and at the time going into it, I thought, I don't know if this is me, but it does seem like they need somebody for this job, and this is the next obvious step in my career. And I did it, and it did not suit me at all. There were so many challenges and blockages, and there was all these challenges that came up with it, and also added to that, I wasn't really ready for it. And in fact, what I learned from it, that from that experience, that kind of management role wasn't for me. And I pulled out of it in the end, and I went back to just being a teacher in that adult learning institution that I was in, and it was much easier. It was the same pay, and it was so much less trouble. But I could see that if that had suited me, it would have been really, really great training. I would have developed so many skills and pragmatism, and being very practical and realistic, and leading people and making things work in a practical way, so that these courses that I was running could work well and grow and benefit everybody who was doing them. This is the kind of opportunity that might come along for you, and the kind of challenge that might come along, and you could shine in this leadership role. But you probably won't see that happening. You probably won't see the rewards until Saturn gets to the very end of its time in Aries in April 2028. Okay. You will also be thinking about restructuring, and this is why I left that role. I realized actually this direction is not for me, and you may need to change your career direction during this time. All right. So you'll be a pioneer, perhaps moving into new stuff, because Aries is pioneering, and Neptune in Aries is about great big visions for the future, and for world scale kind of projects, in a way, grand new initiatives. But you will need to be so realistic as well. Okay, so there might be some amazing projects that you're going to come up with during this time, Cancer, which will be awesome. So you need to be pragmatic, hardworking, and patient, and don't expect rewards yet, and you may be restructuring your career. So all the best for that, Cancer. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. And we are only just into February, so there's still time, plenty left in the year, if you'd like to order an Aotearoa New Zealand Sun and Moon calendar, or an Australia Sun and Moon calendar if you are from either of those countries. But greetings to anybody who's in any other countries. So bye for now, Cancer, and all the best for Saturn and Aries. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, Saturn is moving into Aries on the 13th or 14th of February, and it will be there until April of 2028. Okay, so you had a taste of this last year between May and September. This is Saturn in your 9th house of your spirituality, your belief systems, your religion, if you are religious, and higher learning, the philosophy of life, the meaning of life, the star that you are following in your life that you believe is good for the world. All right. And it can also be foreign travel and adventure. That is all in the 9th house. Saturn is coming into that 9th house to restructure that area, to bring some obstacles and challenges for you to overcome that are going to make you seriously about what you want for any of those, for travel, adventure, exploring, learning about other cultures, higher learning about the philosophy of life, and your spiritual belief systems. Okay, so you may need to get realistic and pragmatic about your spirituality. Okay, does it make sense? Is it too airy fairy? You might find that it's just too flaky for you, and you just want to get it to harden up in a way, like the spirituality or the divine practice of chopping wood, fetching water, doing chores, and working hard, gathering food. and seeing the spirituality in those kind of real and practical things. Okay, that could be one way it could go. It may be that you've been following a religious practice or a spiritual practice and you realize, oh, this is not real enough for me. It's, yeah, again, too flaky or unrealistic or even delusional. And you pull out of that and you change, you restructure your belief systems and you become more grounded through some challenges, because Saturn is not easy. Let's see what else I've written. Restructure your belief systems, your higher meaning. What do you believe in, Leo? What is the meaning of life? You may have challenges with teachers, or even especially like if you're doing any university level learning, like higher learning, or exploring high level kind of thinking, philosophy, learning about belief systems or religions across the world, any of that. Anyway, your teachers, you may become sort of like you see through them and you see they're not as great as you thought they were, and you're skeptical. You need to bring in your skepticism with this transit. It's important to do that, all right? And then foreign travel or higher level study, you may need to take this more seriously, to work harder. If you are traveling, it might be traveling for work rather than for fun, or whatever you're doing on that travel might be physically challenging, or there's obstacles to overcome. So you need to have patience and expect to be restructuring these areas. Saturn is the ruler of your sixth house. That is the house of your daily routines and your hard work in daily life, and how you organize your health routines, exercise, your how you give service in the world. And I think that some of this aspect, like those daily life routines, will be coming into your philosophy of life and your belief systems, and you might be seeing the spirituality and the value of these in a higher meaning kind of way. All right. And oh yes, so you also might end up, because the sixth house is about giving service. So perhaps some of if you are doing any travel, that might be to give service, traveling overseas to, I don't know, help like Habitat for Humanity, building houses for people from other countries, doing woofing overseas, maybe like working on farms or something. Okay, so all the best. At the time that Saturn goes into Leo, your own sun, your ruler is the sun, and that's in the seventh house. So maybe when Saturn first goes in, there might be something about your partner that's getting you to think seriously about any of these topics. All right. So all the best for that, Leo, and there's still plenty of the year left, so you can still order the Aotearoa New Zealand Sun or Moon calendar, Sun and Moon calendar, or the Australia edition if you're from Australia. And greetings also to anyone else in the world that's watching. And good luck for Saturn in Aries Leo. I think you will get very skeptical and clear and practical about your belief systems and your travel. So all the best for that. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, Saturn is moving into Aries on the 13th or 14th of February. It will be there until April of 2028, and that is in your 8th house, your house of deep transformation and crises and things happening that turn you upside down and twist you inside out, change your life. And that could be on an inner level, and you change your whole philosophy of life because of it, looking at your inner psychology, or it could be crises that happen to you. You will be restructuring. This is also the house of shared resources, so your partner's money or money that's shared with a business partner, or finances, also investments, inheritances, large amounts of money that you don't have easy access into in your life. Okay. And it can also be a house of deep intimacy with your partner, going down deep. So sexuality, where it's very deep and intimate. Okay, so a few things there. And so what you might be looking at with Saturn is more realism and more practicality in any of these areas. It can also be a house. There's a lot of things with the eighth house. It can also be the house of occult mysteries, like where you're looking at occult practices, divination, tarot, astrology, even to some degree, especially where you're going down deep and accessing the subconscious layers of knowledge and wisdom and understanding and power that lie within each of us. This is the eighth house. It's actually underneath a house of power, all right? Power in terms of the money, the underlying money, power in terms of how that's shared with the other. And when we get down to the deep level, sexuality, the intimacy is very much about how power is shared between people. All right. So you're looking at, over this next 2 years or so, restructuring shared resources, restructuring investments, and be realistic. And I advise that you check the contracts and the fine print in the agreements. Okay. There might be more pragmatism or restrictions in intimacy. Maybe there's something that makes your intimate life with your partner have to change in a way because of some challenge there. Okay, it could be a physical challenge, something with your bodies that you need to just accept, face up to, try and work through. There could be even some kind of health program, or it could be like inhibitions and working on your underlying psychological layers in a very pragmatic way, taking realistic steps, maybe doing physical developments. I'm just going to say this for all of us out there, men and women, pelvic floor exercises. That might be helpful because that is, it's very foundational. It's a root chakra. This is the eighth house, and it's about being practical, realistic, and working hard and to build that support base, even physically in your body. All right. And with the psychology involved with the eighth house, this could be a time to face out up to difficult, painful, buried emotions and grief and work through those in a practical way. And maybe it's something like journaling, counseling, and being very steady and dedicated to it. Saturn requires discipline. Maybe it's facing up to journaling every day. Maybe it's about, or spending some money on a counselor or a therapist that helps you. And you're also with the big, awesome benefit of Saturn going through the eighth house is developing your sense of power and autonomy. Because, as I said, the underlying nature of the eighth house is that it's really all about power. Okay, so when I had Saturn going through my eighth house quite a few years ago now, I realized I needed to work on self-empowerment, but I didn't know about astrology then. It was before I was into astrology, and I did do counseling. And even if you don't know all this that I'm telling you now, you're probably naturally going to do it anyway. I went to counselors, and I bit by bit was disentangling the areas of life where I was giving away power and exploring the past and where my sense of disempowerment had come from. And also, I ended up with great luck doing a course that was called Pathways to Power. It was a local course, and every week I was able to go to that. I learned so much about the nature of power and boundaries and relationship. It was so valuable. And this might be a theme, the kind of theme that you're looking at, Virgo, over this time. And you may need to have also hard conversations with your partners, all right? And if you have got partners, whether in business or clients or your intimate partner, if you have one, having hard conversations about boundaries and how you share power. So all the best for that, Virgo. That could be very empowering. Not necessarily easy all the time, but Saturn never is easy. But to be restructuring and empowering yourself is wonderful. Okay, so it's still very early in the year, and there's still time to order an Aotearoa New Zealand Sun and Moon calendar for 2026, or if you're in Australia, the Australia edition. And hello also to people in the rest of the world, and all the best for that, Virgo. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, on the 13th or 14th of February until April of 2028, Saturn is going to be in Aries. So it's moving into Aries, and that is your seventh house of relationship, the other person in your life, whether that is your intimate partner, whether in a committed relationship, not like dating, but committed, especially if you're living together, also a business partner or anybody that you're working with on a one-to-one basis. It could even be a family member or a friend where you're doing a lot together and you're thinking and planning and doing things one-to-one. All right, so this area is in for a restructure. You are going to be looking so much at relationship boundaries and learning about the limitations of relationship, getting your head out of the clouds, taking off the rosy glow glasses. At the same time, Neptune is there, so those rosy glow glasses will be on, but Saturn is going to be clouding them for the next 2 years. You are going to have to be careful with boundaries in relationship, Libra, while Neptune is in your seventh house. I'm a Libra sun as well, and so this is about me as well. So this is what you're looking at doing: restructuring partnership. And there may be a partnership in your life where you need to either commit or complete that partnership. Saturn in the seventh house is wonderful for commitment and to accepting in your life and your partner accepting in their life the commitment to each other and being prepared to do the long haul and to have endurance and to show up and do the work that's required for a committed relationship. Having Saturn in there is great for that. It could also bring endings to a relationship that's unrealistic, a relationship that's not working in practical ways, and yeah, a relationship that where it's little bit, it's just not working for you both. And this is a time to end it over the next 2 years. Okay, so you might need to do some hard work and face some challenges in terms of power sharing and boundaries and inhibitions in relationship. Okay, also you may have your partner with restrictions in their lives. So because the seventh house is about your partner, something could be going on for them that means they're feeling more restricted. Maybe they're not well, maybe they are growing up a lot during this time and they get a more adult and realistic, pragmatic way of seeing the world, and that affects you, of course. All right, and it could be that you're involved with older, more serious minded partners, actually older in age or just more mature. Your partner might get more mature, or partners that come along to you in the business or working world, maybe they're more authoritative, more bossy, more serious. That might not always be fun. Capricorn Sorry, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. That is your fourth house. So that is to do with home and family. So there could be something to do with home and family. Maybe you start living with a partner. All right. And it's also the ruler of Aquarius, which is your fifth house. So that's involved with dating. And it also has to do with partnership. Maybe the dating period in a relationship ends and you make a commitment to each other for a long-term partnership. Okay, you're going to have to work on your people pleasing and not do so much people pleasing. And at the moment, when Saturn crosses over your descendant, that could be a more serious challenge to overcome. But overall, out of this, you are going to grow so much, Libra. You are going to be in a whole new zone with your partnerships by the end, and me as well, by the end of this. Okay, so that's in April 2028 that Saturn will be reaching the end of this, and you might see some of the rewards or the results of some of the lessons. It might not feel like a reward, but it will be a result at that time. So all the best, Libra, and there's still plenty of the year left. If you're from New Zealand or Aotearoa, you can order a sun or moon calendar for 2026. So much information in there. Or Australia, here's the Australia edition. And for anybody else in the world, sorry I don't have a calendar for you, but all the best for this transit, Libra. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, on the 13th or 14th of February, Saturn is moving into the sign of Aries, and it's going to be there for the next 2 years until April of 2028. This is your sixth house, and in a way, Saturn suits the sixth house. That's about how you give service in the world in practical ways. It's about your daily routines for health, like exercise and eating nutritious food. It's a very practical house, and Saturn is very practical, and it likes that discipline that is really good for the sixth house, the discipline of going to work, the discipline of daily showing up to routines that are organized and good for your body and physical. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Over the next 2 years, you are going to be looking at getting serious about your daily routines, your life admin, and being organized and well structured. Okay, you had a taste of this between May and September last year because Saturn just went into Aries a little bit. So maybe some themes came up then that you're going to be looking at again. You're going to be looking at restructuring your exercise and your dietary habits. You might find that some exercise that you were doing before doesn't work for you anymore. There could be some limitations and you need to overcome that. Maybe you can't be as loose and free and flowing with your snacking and your diet. In future, you might have to be looking more at eating veggies lots of times a day and yeah, eating more healthily. All right. And because the sixth house is also about how you give service in the world, and that's your daily work where you go every day and it's just the routine stuff. Um, there could be new work required of you, harder work required of you, new projects, especially with Neptune and Aries as well. And Aries is all about new ideas, new initiatives. And Neptune will maybe be bringing out some big, epic, visionary projects, and Saturn will require that you do these, but that you'll be working really hard and there'll be some obstacles to overcome in these projects. And there will be rewards later on, but this is all part of a really big, longer story, like a 30-year story. But over the next 2 years, there will be a lot of obstacles to overcome with those projects. And also, what have I written there? There could be restrictions and challenges at work, all right? You may have to figure out some boundaries or accept some boundaries, like just maybe they bring in some new rules that mean you can't work as freely or choose as much. Maybe you have less autonomy even than you used to have. It's up to you. That now, when I say that, you don't have to accept it. Like Saturn might require that you are standing up for your rights in the workplace. This could be the obstacle that you need to overcome about speaking up for it, especially as Saturn is the ruler of your third house, which is about your thinking and speaking. All right, and it's the ruler of your fourth house, that's to do with home and family. So, yeah, I'm not sure. That might be more to do with restrictions and new ways of doing your routines and at home, like your exercise and cleaning your teeth and keeping it clean and all that. All right. Um, so I'm just looking at my notes there. Yeah, you may have to face up to your time wasting habits. Saturn does not like to waste time. Saturn expects us to be showing up nose to the grindstone. um, Okay, so when I had Saturn going through my sixth house, which was a long time ago now, it was before I was into astrology actually, and I certainly had challenges during that time with work and authority and with asserting my own authority in the workplace. So I had a hard time because I wasn't doing that enough. I was a teacher and I was not being authoritative enough with the students at that time. I was quite young then. Hopefully I'm better now. I also had a small house. I was living in a small house with two babies, a preschooler and a baby. And it was really hard keeping the house in order because you know how busy it is. It was so much to do when you have young kids like that. And keeping our small house in order was really challenging. I had to work hard. I had to be disciplined to try and keep it in order. And I did not always achieve that, I will confess. But you've just got to try and do it as best as you can and work through that. So all the best for that, Scorpio. And yeah, that's a hard transit, but I think like there'll be some real satisfying rewards in it over the long term. But of course, the rewards won't come until later. Okay, so it's not too late. There's plenty of the year left and still time to order an Aotearoa New Zealand 2026 calendar, sun and moon calendar, or if you're from Australia, there's the Australia version. And if you're from the rest of the world, sorry I don't have a calendar for you, but all the best to everybody for Saturn going through Aries. If you are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, on the 13th and 14th of February, Saturn is moving into Aries. This is your fifth house. It will be there until April of 2028. The fifth house is the house where you have fun, your hobbies, your creative expression, expressing yourself in the world in artistic ways, entrepreneurial ways, taking leadership and being kind of shiny and bright in the world, because the fifth house is the natural area of the sun. And having Aries as your fifth house, that means you are quite entrepreneurial, Sagittarius, and you have hobbies and you chase after them and you enjoy that. The fifth house is also the house of your children, and it's also a house of romance and dating. So, with Saturn going through there could be restrictions on any of these. Okay, and a requirement to be more mature and disciplined and structured and practical. All right, you had a taste of this between May and September last year, and then Saturn went out of Aries again, but it's coming back in. And so, all of this fifth house area, you're going to have to grow up more, still be playful with childlike fun, but maybe be more structured about the ways you do your hobbies. Maybe have better boundaries in your dating life, and certainly better boundaries with your children if you're letting them get away with too much. And also, like, your children might just become more mature during this time. So let's look at my notes. So I've said here, more serious, you'll become more serious about having fun. Your hobbies might become more structured, and you'll need to work harder to get rewards. You'll want to work harder, actually. It's not like you'll have to. It will be hard, but you're going to want to work hard. And so that will be good. And you're going to want to structure whatever these creative projects are that you're doing. There could be restrictions on your self-expression. Maybe something will happen to your voice, your singing voice even. There could be restrictions with the artwork that you're doing. Maybe you can't get the paints that you want to do, or maybe there's a physical challenge and you can't do your music as much because you've got something going on with your body or something. All right. And there could even be challenges with your self-worth, because Saturn rules your second house, and the second house is all about self-worth. And this could be limiting your self-expression. All right. And then you need to work through whatever is going on. Work through these challenges in a way that is serious, disciplined, and steady. All right. If you are dating in the dating world, having a dating lifestyle, you might attract more serious partners, older dating partners during this time. Even if they're not older, they've just somehow got this more mature or serious outlook on life. That could be very cool. They could be quite structured, and this could ultimately make it more likely to lead to something that's a committed relationship if that's what you want. All right. Your children might grow up quite a bit during this transit, become more mature, or there could be some restrictions for your children, like they're having to work harder to study for their exams or something. They've taken on a job that's more challenging and requiring more of them. And it might even mean that you have to take charge more with your children, like not let them wrap you around their little fingers. Like, you become more authoritative and take leadership with your parenting. Another factor of children is you could have a child. So when I had Saturn going through my fifth house, which is now 24 years ago, because my son, 23, He's 23. Anyway, I had my first child. I had my son. And so that was a very serious and disciplined aspect of having children, is the moment when you have them and you have this baby and your whole life changes and you just can't be as free and flowing anymore. But it's also awesome. All right. And I'm Oh, your own ruler is Jupiter, and that is in the eighth house. And that might mean that there could be some psychological layers to explore and to go into. And while Jupiter's in there for a whole year. So that's part of that time. And here's a reminder about Saturn is going to be making you restructure your self expression and your hobbies and the things you do for fun that make your heart feel just wonderful. Okay. What makes your heart sing creatively? What makes your heart sing and feel joyous? This is an important question to ask because Saturn's going to make you want to get rid of the stuff and not stop doing those hobbies that are not bringing you as much joy as they used to. Okay, so all the best for that, Sagittarius. It's early in the year and there's still plenty of time to order an Aotearoa 2026 Sun and Moon calendar for New Zealand. Or if you're from Australia, there's the Australian edition there for 2026. And if you're from the rest of the world, I'm sorry I don't have a calendar for you, but nevertheless, I wish you all, everyone, all the best for Saturn going through your fifth house, Aries. So, all the best, Sagittarius. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, Saturn is going through the sign of Aries from the 13th or 14th of February until April of 2028. This is your fourth house, Capricorn, the house of home and family, your family of origin, your ancestry. Okay, and that's going to be bringing some restrictions in the house that you live in. It's also properties that you own. Maybe you're renovating, working hard at something. Maybe something's going on for the people that you live with, or maybe you're living with people that are more mature and serious and structured in their lives, or maybe even just older. All right. There could be some challenges and blockages to overcome with properties or with your house. Maybe things need to be fixed, and it could take hard work and discipline to work through that. And the idea, Capricorn, is to do what you are so good at, and that is working steadily, being disciplined, working hard, and structured, and building for the future. Okay, so let's look at my notes. All right. So expect to have over the next 2 years or so restrictions, new developments, because Neptune and Aries, especially Aries, it's all about bringing in new stuff, all right? But there could be some restrictions, and with the developments, you have to work hard in your home, overcome obstacles. There might be renovations to do. The fourth house is also about emotional safety, emotional security, and you may need to take this more seriously in your home. Maybe the people that you live with, for example, your family, might need you might need to actually show up to being more nurturing, being more caring and compassionate, especially with Neptune in that fourth house for the next 14 years. Um, And Saturn will require that you do this. There's obstacles to overcome. It might be possible, Capricorn, that you're a person who doesn't find it easy to talk about feelings, to talk about emotions. And you may need to do that. You may need to show up to that for the people that you live with, for your darling loved ones. All right? Your nearest and dearest. Okay. And there could come with this some connections with the ancestral line. All right. When I had Saturn moving through my fourth house, which was now like 25 years ago, my parents moved into the area that I was living, and I moved in with them for a while. So that was like, the connections with my ancestry there. I also got into my citizenship and I organized a passport for another country that I have citizenship with. So I was looking at that, the ancestry and my origins with that and getting structured about it. Okay, so all the best for that, Capricorn. There's still time to order, plenty of the year left. If you're from New Zealand, Aotearoa, to order the Aotearoa 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. Or if you're from Australia, there's the Australian edition still available. If you're from the rest of the world, sorry, I don't have a calendar for you, but nevertheless, Capricorn, I wish you all the best for Saturn moving through the sign of Aries. Your planet, Saturn is your planet, and so I think you will do well with this. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, Saturn is moving into the sign of Aries on the 13th or 14th of February, and that is your third house. Aries is your third house, your house of speaking and communication with the world. Also, the house of your relations, your brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, nieces, cousins, your neighbors. It's a house of your neighborhood and community and traveling around your neighborhood. It's a house of learning and interacting with your community around you. By learning, I mean like local learning in schools, doing local courses, stuff like that. It's a house of curiosity and connection. It's such a big house, the third house, in terms of there's so much involved with the third house, so many things. It's also a house of small business and a house of marketing and social media. All right, so there's going to be restrictions, blockages, challenges, and the requirement to work hard and be practical in any of those areas over the next 2 years. You had a taste of it when Saturn went into Aries for a short time between May and September. So some things that maybe came up then might come up again. All right, so let's have a look at what I've written. You may have new projects because Neptune is in Aries as well. Aries is all about being entrepreneurial, pioneering, new initiatives, leading people into new fields. And Neptune there is going to really boost some of that. And Saturn and Neptune, Saturn's going to help you to work hard for whatever those new initiatives are. So there's a requirement also to do some restructuring about your community and your neighborhood, or maybe in your relationship with your siblings or other relations, and challenges. Okay, so as I've said, there are new projects, restructuring, and challenges for siblings, neighborhood, small business, social media, and local travel. Maybe you find that maybe you decide you don't want to drive anymore to work. Maybe you start biking or walking, but it's hard. It's a harder thing to do. You have to get up earlier so there's enough time. Sorry, I'm just taking off my slippers and getting pretty warm. Okay, you may also need to work on your voice and your writing, your expression, your communication, your learning, your speaking or communication. As I said, there could be restrictions or blockages with any of these, and maybe you need to develop that ability to speak up, to take authority more as you speak up. Saturn is about your inner authority and your self-mastery. Okay, the third house is also about hand skills and crafts. So maybe you get more structured with developing your sewing skills. If you play a musical instrument or you work with tools in some way, you make things, you might need to get more structured and organized and dedicated to those crafts, all right? And there could be some inhibitions to overcome and challenges to overcome, all right? And the third house is also about our self-talk, our mental activity, all right? Habitual thinking. Maybe that goes a bit haywire. Maybe you get too worried and anxious and thoughts are going round and round. I think we all have challenges with that at times. And you may need to be working on that, applying more discipline, being more bossy with your own thoughts even. You may realize that there's an issue with this, and you might have, it can be all very well telling yourself, stop thinking about that, blah, blah, stop thinking negatively, but there might be some other ways that you can approach that. For example, working with affirmations, having some breathing techniques, mindfulness techniques, and looking at some lifestyle habits that might be feeding that. For example, scrolling too much on social media, looking at the news too much, focusing on negative things too much. These are things to work on, and Saturn is going to require you to overcome challenges, to be more disciplined, and to work hard so that you can master any of these areas more like a boss. All right. So Saturn is the ruler of your first house and your 12th house, and so there could be a lot of looking at yourself and in these areas and how you as a person approach these areas. And with that 12th house influence, you might also be looking at some of your unconscious patterning and how that plays out in your everyday life. All right. Oh, here's a little thing I wrote in my comments. I just had some notes. You could mute some of the group chat conversations. Are you finding like your phone is just ding, ding, ding because you got put on some group chat for some social weekend that's coming up, and then everyone's just talking about other stuff like how cute their cat is or the weather or whatever, or saying, I've arrived now. This is what I'm eating now. And it could be a good idea to mute some of those conversations or leave them. That's just a little example of how you could apply some Saturn discipline or restriction to your third house area. So all the best for that, Aquarius. And if you happen to be from New Zealand or Aotearoa, you can order the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. It's packed with information and there's still lots of the year to go. If you're from Australia, this is the Australia edition that you can order. See the notes in the description below. If you're from the rest of the world, I'm sorry I don't have a calendar for you, but nevertheless, Aquarius, I wish you all the best for Saturn going through your third house. I think there'll be some great benefits to come out of it and rewards that come at the end. And you've got a real practical mindset. Saturn is your ruler, and I think you'll be fine with it. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, and I am one of you, on the 13th or 14th of February, Saturn moves into our second house of Aries. We have had 2 or 3 years of Saturn in our first house. I feel like I've got older and more serious and a lot more disciplined in some ways, and I've had to be so practical and realistic. It's not our natural way, Pisces. We like to just flow with things, but Saturn has required us to grow up in a lot of ways. Saturn is now moving out of that first house into our second house. The second house is our house of our sense of self-worth and how that manifests in the material aspects of life, our resources, our possessions, our money, our earnings. So we might need to look at getting a lot more structured. We will need to look at getting a lot more structured, self-reliant, independent with our sense of self-worth, less of our self-worth being attached to others, less of relying on money or support from others. All right, more self-reliant, Pisces. That's going to be us. We may need to seriously restructure our budgeting. We might actually have to do budgeting. If you haven't been doing it, I'm a hit and miss with that, but we will be doing that a lot over the next 2 years until April of 2028. And also possibly doing some big cleaning out with our possessions and our stuff. All right, so cleaning up and maybe saving up to acquire new possessions that we feel will support us in life. This is like those possessions that support us in our life's journey and how we want to be in the world and our goals and everything in life. So let's have a look at what I've written. Restructure our finances, our assets, our possessions, and expect challenges with this. It could be that we are more restricted with the money and income that we're receiving over the next 2 years. We'll be looking at doing some new initiatives because Aries is about entrepreneurial projects and new initiatives, and Neptune is in there while Saturn is, and for the next 14 years actually, and then we've got the conjunction with Saturn and Neptune. So there's going to be new initiatives, but we'll need to be working hard on those in order to get financial gain from them. The rewards might come later if we work hard and are realistic, pragmatic, and but also thinking big. All right. Our self-worth. We might find that we feel better about ourselves when we are working hard and being disciplined and feeling financially independent. That can help greatly with a sense of self-worth. All right. And we will need to budget well and with discipline. All right. So, Saturn is the ruler of our 11th house. Capricorn is the 11th house, so that might also be about income that comes from our career. And of course, Neptune is our modern ruler, and that is recently also in Aries the second. So, yeah, there's a lot happening with our money over the next couple of years and even the next 14 years, Pisces. All right, so all the best with that. And if you are from New Zealand or Aotearoa, there's plenty of the year left, so you can still order a 2026 Sun and Moon calendar packed with information. And if you're from Australia, there's the Australia edition. If you're from the rest of the world, sorry, I don't have a calendar for you, but nevertheless, I wish you all the best for having Saturn going through Aries, our second house of money and resources. Bye for now, Pisces. That's a roundup of Saturn in the sign of Aries for all signs and whatever affecting whatever part of your chart Aries lies in and what part of your life. I hope that this video doesn't encourage you to feel too negatively about Saturn. It is a great master. It brings rewards in the end, and that also the gaining of the sense of self-worth and self-respect that we get from being structured, disciplined, and working hard. There can be so much satisfaction in that. Just and being practical and realistic, it just makes life easier in the end. It's harder in the moment, but in the end, life is easier when we face up to the realities of whatever context we're living in. So, all the best for that, everyone. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and good luck for Saturn in Aries. Bye for now.